One of the best things about being the pastor of a church is getting a front row seat in what the Lord is doing in different people's lives. Dan Rogers a few weeks ago recorded a version of What a Friend We Have in Jesus to go at the end of our morning YouTube sermon. Here in this interview, I get to ask Dan a few questions just about what the Lord has been doing in his life and how he became a Christian. Watch it and enjoy. So Dan, I think you've been coming to our church for about a year, or maybe nearly 18 months. So
yeah, 18 months, yeah.
Tell us what made you come for the first time.
So a bit of a funny story where I was on my way to pick Isaac up, and I used to live opposite Neil and Becky, who plays guitar in the church. And as I pulled up outside, Neil was getting out of his car and he had the guitar kind of slumped over his shoulder, very, very rock and roll, and kind of waltzed over to him and I said, "Oh, where have you been?" And he said, "Oh, I've been doing the rehearsals for the Nativity." I was like, "Oh, amazing." So when's that happening? He said, "It's Sunday." He said, "You should come, bring Isaac." He said, "It's really rubbish, but it's really funny." So I was like, I thought about it, and we turned up. We came on the Sunday of the Nativity, and it was amazing. It was really great. It was fantastic. So that was kind of the way in.
Yeah.
When we arrived on that Sunday,
I think that's our most chaotic service of the whole year, right?
Yeah, thought I'd jump straight in at the deep end. But no, it's brilliant. I mean, my memories of walking into that place, Egbert Community Hall, and just the feel initially, it was just like a wave of nothing but love, which was incredible. I'm not even sure what I expected. I just expected to kind of go in, watch the show, and then go out and kind of maybe have not any interaction at all. And in fact, it was quite the opposite. And I think it had come at an incredibly poignant moment for me because I'd had a tough couple of months. So to turn up to somewhere and just to feel loved, from everyone was just incredible.
And then you basically then just stuck with it, didn't you? And came.
Yeah. So I came for the carol concert, which was great, and so the people who'd come up to me during the nativity came back over to me, and it was like they knew us. They knew what I did, and they knew about Isaac, and they knew our names, and it's just incredible.
Right. I remember speaking to you because you carry on coming into the new year, and I was like, listen, not all our services are like this, so they're not all complete chaos Christmas services. So that kind of initial feeling that people were interested in you, they loved you, they cared about you, what was it that made you just keep coming, keep listening, and keep engaging?
I think, to hear the word of the gospel was great, but spoken by you, Steve, I think you were a massive influence initially. I'd been to church before earlier on in my life, and I kind of got the impression that it was just a kind of a very rote format, a formulaic kind of spiel that the priests were doing because it's just what they did on a Sunday, and even at a very tender age, I was like, this is just not interesting at all, Whereas it was a real breath of fresh air when I started coming to ACC and to hear the passion that you have and that everybody else has, and the way everyone's interconnected, and it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, So there was the educational level, there was the spiritual level with the love, and just everything was right. It just all kind of clicked in.
But what you believed about the Bible, about who Jesus claimed to be, were those things that you hadn't really thought about, or were they things that you had ideas about?
Certainly, yeah. I was Christian, so I went to Sunday school quite regularly. Every Sunday, in fact, as a young boy, and that was a really great time. Actually, we attended Christ the King Church on Queen's Drive, and the guy who was in charge at the time was a guy called Father English, and I just remember him being like the sweetest, the oldest guy I'd ever met, and I found him really interesting, really fascinating, and what he spoke about. And I think regardless what anyone thinks about the Bible, moralistically, it offers a great way in which children should be brought up.
Right.
It's an incredible story, and it's a humbling story, and it's something that's kind of probably meant more to me over the last 18 months.
I remember we were preaching through Matthew's Gospel, and I am just those later chapters building up to the cross of the Lord Jesus, and just talking to you. What was it about those sermons in terms of just what you came to understand about who Jesus is and what he's done that were so compelling?
I mean, coming back to a particular poignant moment, was the sermon where you were preaching about the betrayal at Gethsemane. And for me, that was a really unique moment, in the sense I was absolutely, I spoke to you afterwards, I think, and broke down in front of you. And just that, the fact that, he's on his knees in the middle of the Gethsemane and he's saying, is there any other way? Please don't let it be like this, and the fact that he'd given so much to save people that further generations he wouldn't have even known, and spiritually he knows us, but, to lay that all down on the cross for you and I think is just, no one will ever do anything like that.
Just, articulating to someone who maybe is thinking about these things for the first time, would like to know more, what would you want them to know about Jesus? What is it that you'd want them to know and understand about who he is that you found so compelling?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing thing that, no matter what you go through in your life, he's going to be there every single step of the way. He's there to support you, he's there to help you, he's there to pray to. And for me, that's such a liberating thing, to know that you're not going through this on your own, whatever that might be. And what a friend we have in Jesus,
Yeah.
No pun intended, but
yeah,
there'll be no one else like that. Everything else will fail, I think.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
Yeah.
To have such a rock in your life to turn to, and to be there with, is incredible.
Yeah. What about someone who said, do you know what, Dan, I just don't feel good enough to be a Christian?
That's interesting. I still think that from time to time, and I think we all have our kind of trials and tribulations, and I think for me it was difficult initially to get my head around the fact of, we sin on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, don't we? And it's having an awareness of that, I think, and being able to change that, and live your life for the better, but also to know that, no matter what we do, our sins have been forgiven, being paid for.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing.
It's brilliant, isn't it? We've had some great times just rejoicing in that it doesn't matter whether you've been a Christian 10 minutes or 10 years, actually your standing before God is exactly the same because of what Jesus has done, which is
incredible.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Did that brilliant recording of What a Friend We Have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear.
Yeah, what a song. The lyrics are so poignant, and it was different. There's a smile at the end of the video, actually, and I think I'd nail the take without breaking down and crying. That smile was like a bit of a smile of relief and a bit of a smile of rejoice, and a load of emotions came to a head there.
Yeah. How have you found that just to be true in your experience, just in terms of the friendship of the Lord Jesus? You talked about his presence with you. How's that felt for you, and how's that helped you?
That's so hard to put into words, isn't it? It's for me. I think it's an emotional connection. There's a spiritual and emotional connection there, and that supersedes anything that we perceive on a daily basis. I think it kind of operates on a higher plane. So words, I don't think will ever do it justice. The relationship that we have with God and Jesus, but to rejoice in the fact is incredible, isn't it? To feel comforted in situations, and to know that we're not alone is brilliant.
Yeah. How what's it like living as a Christian then? So just in terms of how's your life changed over the last 18 months? In kind of goals, aspirations, desires, day-to-day life. What's it?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I think certainly I think that transition between kind of living the mortal life and focusing more on the spiritual life. I think the spiritual life has always been there, but I think the mortality takes over, doesn't it? In the sense of, we kind of were led to believe that we push towards these things for this world. And I think in hindsight, it's made me question, most importantly, who I am. where I've come from and where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's questioned everything that I've ever done in life, you know. So to be a musician could be deemed as very self-indulgent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I certainly go through moments where I'm like, yeah, maybe I should just give up and follow something else, you know, follow this. But you know, I'm writing towards my experience as well as a Christian, you know. So there's a branch off as a musician where I'm kind of put my thoughts and my hopes and my fears into song, you know, and all related to this.
Yeah.
So I think possibly that's a kind of a natural kind of direction that.
Yeah. Yeah. It does seem just the Lord's given us music as a means of reflecting the way that we feel about Him, and
absolutely, yeah,
rejoicing in what He's done for us, and
yeah,
articulating our sorrows, yeah, all of those things. Yeah.
And again, it moves you in a way that would never, you know, you can describe music as happy or sad, can't you, or angry or whichever, you know, but they're just words and they don't do a good song justice, you know. So What a Friend We Have in Jesus is such a beautiful song, isn't it? And that will move you to tears, and
yeah,
and that's an emotional thing, isn't it? And going beyond kind of the emotions that we perceive on a daily basis.
Yeah. So I guess just lots of our friends, members of our family, people that we live around would probably have just written off Jesus, Christian message, just think it's a bit outdated. And what would you say to encourage them to consider it, to maybe have another think about it, or go back to church? What would you say?
I mean, I'd have to hold my hands up there. You know, I'm not always open and honest about my Christianity. You know, the people who are in my close circle, I am. You know, and for me, it's about kind of trying to incorporate them. You know, so trying to bring them to church and talking to them about what, you know, my experience as a Christian and what we're talking about in the Bible and what this says. And, you know, and I think that's important to kind of to educate, but on a level where people don't feel like there's a certain stereotype, isn't it, that goes with being a Christian?
Yeah.
That people just kind of have gone.
Yeah.
You know, they've pushed it. Yeah. It's trying to break down those barriers, isn't it, and then getting through. And for me, the best way to get through is emotionally or spiritually. You know, so to have people to come along to be with us in our church is fantastic. You know, and it's certainly led to some great experiences and some great conversations. Yeah. So I hope for more of that in the future.
Brilliant. Just tell us as we finish, what's lockdown like for a musician?
I've been really blessed in the sense of, you know, I have my health and I can play more. I've focused on Ghost Stalker Records, so I'm doing a lot of production work and a lot more songwriting and a lot more creativity, and working with Isaac. He's playing piano every day, and so it's tough in the sense of I'm not able to see the people who I usually see on a day-to-day basis. But we're working on ways around that. You know, we've talked about doing like social distancing gigs where the bands record their own parts and then we compile them together and release them as a live track. So we're in the process of doing that at the moment. But it's been great. You know, I've enjoyed stepping back. It was furious. It was furious, you know, and I was literally running myself into the ground. And I think by stopping, I've certainly learned a lot about myself and a lot about my life. And it's given me more time to do the things that I should be doing.
Yeah.
And long may that continue. So I think when things do go back to normal, I'll have a new normal.
A slightly slower one.
Yeah, slightly slower one.
Yeah.
But more productive and you know, spiritually productive as well as artistically productive, you know.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Dan. That's brilliant. And thanks for recording What a Friend We Have in Jesus as well.
My pleasure. Yeah, it was an honor, really. You know, such a lovely song. Like I say, I struggled to sing it in church, and when you said What a Friend We Have in Jesus, I was like, I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to get through it. Shedding a little tear.
Thanks, Dan.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Steve.
To praise an endless worship.